Alright, I've got to be fair here. I can't just beat up on Halloween Resurrection. Though I have a lot of love for Halloween H20, they made a lot of mistakes. So today, I want to talk about how you could fix Halloween H20. What's up everybody, Nick here, and today I want to talk to you guys about Halloween H20. And more specifically, I want to talk about how you could tweak Halloween H20 to make it, I think, a perfect movie. Now, if you're familiar with my channel, you know that I prefer Halloween H20 to Halloween 2018, every day of the week and twice on Sunday. But that's not to say that there weren't issues here, because there definitely were. While I think this is a much better anniversary film than Halloween 2018, there are things that I would have loved to have seen cleaned up. And I did a series talking about the Laurie Strode timeline, what went right and what went wrong, but I didn't offer fixes to that timeline. And I think a lot of the issues with that timeline stem from H20 and Resurrection. The first fix for Halloween H20, and I don't care how you have to do it, you could have done it, is keep Jaime Lloyd canon. Now, before anybody goes, well, they could not have done that. Halloween 6 totally ruined any potential of that ever being a thing with a cult and a baby. No, it really didn't. Hear me out here. At this point, as we sit here in 2025, the Halloween franchise has reinvented itself time and time again. Hell, the most recent anniversary movie we got, Halloween 2018, wrote everything aside from the original Halloween out of continuity, although it was bringing back the major player of the franchise, Laurie Strode. Like, we could have done this. How you do it? Well, it's simple. You ignore Halloween 6 entirely. You pick up after Halloween 5. Michael Myers vanished almost 10 years ago, and Jaime Lloyd with him. And in the earliest drafts of Halloween H20, Jaime Lloyd was going to be mentioned. Laurie was going to be finding out that her daughter died while she is teaching class, and she was going to go to the bathroom and throw up. So they clearly were thinking about doing this anyway. And I really just don't find it all that much of a stretch. I talked about with Halloween Resurrection how they should have just not explained what happened at the end of H20. We should have just assumed it was Michael and he showed up again. Why is that so hard to believe? This is, at this point, a supernatural being in a lot of our eyes. It's scarier to not give me an explanation of why he showed back up. And if you just continue after Halloween 5 and we don't know where Michael is, we don't know where Jaime is, and all of that comes to a head at the beginning of H20 and Michael finally finds Laurie, I just think it would have worked so much better. Because Jaime Lloyd was a character that we grew to know and love. And even when you watch these movies nowadays, no matter what timeline you prefer, you have to admit, you are always in your headcanon gonna think of Jaime Lloyd as Laurie Strode's daughter. Like, it's just ingrained in us, like Darth Vader and Luke. It's just something that we've come to know, love, and accept at the very least. Now, that's not to say that I don't like John, because I do, and I really like Josh Hartnett in this movie. But if I had to be honest, I would have much rather they have kept Jaime Lloyd, Laurie Strode's daughter. The next fix with Halloween H20, and this one is really quite obvious, the frickin' masks. Look, it's a shit show in this movie. Let's just be real. You've got multiple different masks that show up on screen throughout the runtime of this film. You get moments that they could not go back and reshoot the footage where the mask is more out of focus, and you can clearly tell that it is a different mask from the previous 5 seconds that you had just watched. And God forbid we bring up that CGI monstrosity. Look, I don't know what was going on behind the scenes. I know what they've told us. We all know, oh yeah, well, this company made this one. We had the K&B, we had the Stan Winston, we had to use the CGI. No, it doesn't matter. You should have come up with something that looked better than anything we got in this film. And if you're not new to this series on my channel, you will find that I bitch about the masks a lot, but that's because I feel like this is one of the easiest things to get right about a Halloween movie. You can have a shit story, terrible characters, terrible setting, but you gotta get the freaking mask right. And Halloween H20, I think, is the biggest offender of all of them in the Halloween franchise when it comes to the mask. The next fix for Halloween H20 is again quite obvious. Get rid of the Marco Beltrami Scream score and use what John Ottman composed for this film. Look, if you guys haven't gone back and listened to some of the samples of the music that John Ottman composed for this film, I implore you to do so. It is great. John Ottman really wanted to focus on this big orchestral choir sound. He wanted this to feel like an anniversary, an event, because it is. And I loved his rendition of the theme. There's strings, it gets loud slaughter as it goes. I mean, it is just fantastic. And I would have much rather preferred to have heard that when Michael is stalking or chasing Laurie than us reusing Beltrami's Scream score. I understand this was 1998, Scream was a huge hit, Scream 2 had just came out and was another huge hit. So clearly Dimension and really horror writ large was leaning towards Scream. That doesn't mean that Halloween H20 needed to literally use the freaking score. It still bothers me to this day. It will always bother me. I'm never going to get over this. The next fix for Halloween H20, and this might seem minor to some of you guys, but hear me out here, changing the location. Look, this taking place in California really hurts how the atmosphere comes across in this film. And when I say that, I mean there's little to none. Because, I don't know if you're familiar with Southern California, it doesn't really look or feel like fall in the Midwest. Now, I get it, for the narrative, well, Laurie Strode had to have moved away and changed her name to get away from Michael Myers. Absolutely. Why'd she have to move to California, though? Couldn't she have moved to, I don't know, another state like Ohio or Tennessee or anything that could have resembled fall in the Midwest? Like, it's really not that hard to do. She could have moved a couple states away, but kept the same kind of climate. And again, this may seem minor to some people, but it actually really matters in the Halloween franchise because some of my favorite films in this series nail the atmosphere. Look, it's no different than making a Christmas movie and it looks like it's July. Like, who would want to watch that in December if it doesn't look or feel at all like Christmas? It's the same thing with a Halloween movie. I want it to look like Halloween, and Halloween H20 just doesn't. So while it's a minor issue, it's one that definitely could have positively impacted this film. The next fix with Halloween H20? Focusing a little bit more on our main characters and not giving so much screen time to the side characters. Now, aside from LL Cool J, I feel like a lot of the side characters in this movie are just super forgettable and borderline cringe when they're on screen, specifically John and Molly's friend group. Even Molly to some extent. I would have much preferred if this felt a little bit more isolated. Maybe John has a girlfriend, that's totally fine, but we didn't need the friend group. I know what they were going for. They were trying to recapture the feeling of the original Halloween with a teenage friend group. It just didn't work, and it wasn't necessary here. Like, we know that they are just lambs to slaughter, and that's fine if they're somewhat interesting or entertaining, but they're neither, so they just didn't need to be here. I honestly would have liked more screen time for LL Cool J. I liked him quite a bit in this movie, and he's just largely forgotten in the middle of this movie. It's just like he shows up again at the end like, oh, hey, I'm Michael Myers, just kidding, I'm LL Cool J and you shot me. Because this is already a really lean movie, it checks in under 90 minutes. So there's no problem with an hour-and-a-half slasher. I actually prefer them, but if you're gonna do that, focus most of that time on the characters we actually give a shit about and not the ones that we know are just set up to die and we're gonna feel no way about it when they do so. The next egregious problem with Halloween H20 that should have been fixed very early on is Michael Myers, and specifically Chris Duran's portrayal of Michael Myers. Look, Duran just doesn't have the build, in my opinion. He doesn't even look like Nick Castle, let alone some of the later ones like George P. Wilbur. I don't think he has the look. Obviously, the mask doesn't help. He does not do the walk right at all. I hate the fact that we can see his eyes so clearly and that he acts with his eyes. That was a choice. Look, I understand that the mask revealing those eyes isn't Duran's fault, but Duran choosing to act with his eyeballs as Michael Myers is his choice, and it was a mistake. And look, I'm not trying to tear down Chris Duran. I'm really not. I'm sure he's a great guy, and this was a job for him. I totally get it, the same way it was for Brad Laurie. However, caring about this character as much as I do, and especially this being a reunion movie where it's supposed to feel like the two of them are face to face again, it doesn't feel like Laurie Strode is facing off against Michael Myers. It's like Timu-ass Michael Myers, and it's just not what it should have been. That's the one area I give Halloween 2018 props over H20, is Michael is way better. It feels like Myers from 1978. This doesn't at all. And the last fix with Halloween H20 is something I already mentioned in Resurrection, but I just want to double down on that. And even more specifically, talk to the creators themselves. Don't have a plan for a sequel while you are making this reunion movie. Don't do it, because it undermines the ending whether you intended it to or not. And honestly, they did intend it to, because they had a sequel plan to tell us that wasn't Michael Myers. That was a mistake. You should have gone into this movie with it being one movie to wrap everything up, at least with the character of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. That's it. You don't plan future movies. You don't have Jamie Lee sign on to multiple movies. No, because the fact that a sequel came out just a couple years later, regardless of what the explanation was for the ending ending of H2O, it just totally diminishes the impact that H2O had. It doesn't feel as special as it should. Love or hate Halloween Ends, I will use that as an example. It's been 3 years now, and there is nothing regarding a new Halloween movie being in development as we sit here today. And I applaud them for that, because if you go into a movie saying like this is going to be the final showdown, do that. At least give it a break for a while. They knew going into H2O that it wasn't going to be the end, and that's a huge problem. So overall, I think with keeping Jaime Lloyd in continuity, a better Michael, a better setting, a better score, and more focus on our core characters, this could have been a perfect movie. Damn near perfect movie. Unfortunately, those things didn't happen, and overall, it's pretty good. I have a lot of love for Halloween H2O, and I will defend this movie until I'm dead and buried, especially because I have Halloween 2018 to directly compare it to. While 2018 did a few things better than H2O, I think H2O got the most important thing right, which is Laurie Strode. But I want to know down below what you guys think. Do you think these fixes I proposed for Halloween H2O would have made it that much better? Or do you think, no, it's perfect the way it is, they shouldn't have touched it? Whatever it is, sound off in the comments section. I want to discuss it with you. I want to thank you so much for watching the video. Make sure to leave a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. This is Nick at the Lost River Drive-In, and I'm pulling out.